The planet was far from any known trade routes or colonies. It was in a sector that most space explorers had forgotten. Thick clouds of gas surrounded the world, making it hard for even advanced ships to scan properly. No one had paid attention to it in centuries, and that was exactly why it became such a surprise. The alien exploration ship, Star Seer, was on a routine mission. Its crew, a mix of different alien species, was searching for resources. They had no idea that they were about to find something that would shock the entire galaxy. Captain Vorak, a seasoned commander with green reptilian skin, stood on the bridge, staring at the planet below. His eyes narrowed as he reviewed the data. "There's something down there," he muttered, more to himself than to his crew. His second in command, Tira, a smaller, more cautious alien with long, tentacle-like arms, looked at the readings on her console. "It's probably just old ruins, Captain. This planet has been abandoned for a long time." But Vorak didn't listen. His instincts told him otherwise. "Prepare a landing party. We're going down." A few hours later, the crew of the Starseer descended through the planet's thick atmosphere in their landing craft. As they got closer, they could see ancient buildings, covered in dust and overgrown with alien plants. The structures looked like they hadn't been touched in hundreds of years. The landing party, consisting of 5 aliens, stepped onto the surface. The air was thin but breathable. Captain Vorak led the way, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "Spread out," he ordered. "Let's see what we can find." Tira and the others moved cautiously, their weapons ready just in case. They expected to find nothing more than broken structures and maybe some old tech. But after about an hour of searching, something strange happened. One of the crew members, a large alien named Crag, called out, "Captain, you need to see this!" Vorak rushed over to where Crag was standing, next to what looked like a massive metal door. The door was embedded in the ground, partially covered by dirt and plant life. But what caught everyone's attention was the symbol on the door. It was old, faded, but clearly the symbol of humans. "Humans?" Tira asked, confused. "This planet is too far from any human colonies." Vorak frowned, examining the door closely. "This symbol is ancient, older than any human colony we know of. But how could they have been here?" He looked at Crag. "Can we open it?" Crag nodded. "It looks like it still has power. I can try." With a grunt, Crag activated a control panel near the door. There was a loud hiss as the door slowly creaked open, revealing a dark corridor that led underground. Cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of something long forgotten. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but Vorak stepped forward. "We're going in." The corridor was long and silent, with walls made of metal that seemed far too advanced for its age. As they walked deeper, small lights flickered on, reacting to their presence. The deeper they went, the more they realized they weren't just exploring ruins. They were entering a massive complex, hidden beneath the surface for centuries. Tira's voice broke the silence. "Captain, this technology, it's human, but it's far more advanced than anything we've ever seen from them." Vorak nodded, his eyes scanning the walls. "This isn't just an old human colony. It's something much more important." Finally, they reached a large chamber. Inside, they found rows upon rows of ships, huge, powerful warships, all covered in dust but still intact. Their sleek designs were unlike anything the aliens had seen before. They were clearly human-made, but they looked more advanced than any human ships flying in the galaxy now. Crag let out a low whistle. "These are warships, and big ones, too." Tira stepped forward, wiping dust off the hull of one of the ships. "But these ships look like they're hundreds of years old. Why would humans leave them here?" Vorak was silent for a moment, thinking. Maybe they didn't leave them here. Maybe this was a hidden fleet, kept in secret, waiting for the right time to be used. The crew looked at him in shock. "A hidden fleet? For what?" Tira asked. Vorak shook his head. "I don't know. But whatever the reason, we need to report this to the Galactic Council. This discovery will change everything." As the crew began to leave the chamber, Crag stayed behind for a moment, his eyes lingering on the massive ships. He could feel it in his bones. These weren't just old, forgotten ships. They were part of something much bigger, something that the rest of the galaxy had no idea about. And soon, they would learn. The crew of the Starseer had no idea that their discovery would shake the very foundations of power in the galaxy. The ancient human fleet, once thought lost and useless, was about to return, and it would show everyone that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had ever believed. Back on their ship, Starseer, Captain Vorak and his crew couldn't stop thinking about the fleet of ancient warships they had just discovered. The large hangar full of powerful human ships was still fresh in their minds, and the weight of their discovery hung heavy in the air. Vorak stood at the front of the bridge, looking out at the planet below. His mind raced with possibilities. The ships they had found were clearly human-made, but far more advanced than anything humans were known for today. And now it was up to him and his crew to decide what to do next. "We can't keep this secret for long," Vorak said, mostly to himself. He knew that once the word got out about this hidden fleet, it would change everything in the galaxy. He needed to make a decision, and fast. Tira, his second-in-command, stepped forward. "Captain, if these ships are as powerful as they look, we need to act before someone else finds out. The Galactic Council could take control of them." Vorak nodded, his mind made up. "You're right. We need to prepare the fleet ourselves. If the Council gets involved, we'll lose any chance of understanding what these ships can really do." The crew worked around the clock, preparing to return to the planet. They knew the task ahead would be dangerous, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. If they could get just one of those ancient ships running, it could be enough to shift the balance of power in the galaxy. The plan was simple: send a team back down to the planet to activate the ship's systems and begin repairs. But simple plans often led to complex problems, and this one was no different. Vorak turned to Crag, the ship's strongest engineer. "Crag, you're in charge of getting those ships operational. I don't care how old they are. We need them flying again." Crag, a hulking alien with thick armored skin, grinned. "No problem, Captain. If these ships are as advanced as they look, we'll have them up and running in no time." The next day, the crew of the Starseer descended back to the planet, this time with a larger team. They brought with them advanced tools, repair drones, and enough supplies to last for weeks. As they landed near the massive hangar, they were greeted by the sight of the ancient warships once again. The hangar was silent, but there was an undeniable feeling of power in the air. The ships, though covered in dust and age, seemed to be waiting for something or someone to bring them back to life. Crag led the repair team into the largest ship. It was a colossal warship, easily 3 times the size of the Starseer. As they entered the control room, Crag couldn't help but marvel at the technology. The controls were far more advanced than anything he had ever seen, even by modern standards. "Captain," Crag called over the comms, "these systems are incredible. It's like they were built yesterday. Whoever made these ships knew exactly what they were doing." Vorak's voice crackled through the speakers. "Good. Let's get one of them operational. We need to know what we're dealing with." For days, the crew worked tirelessly. Crag and his team repaired the ship's power core, fixed damaged circuits, and reprogrammed the control systems. Slowly but surely, the ship began to hum with life. The old warship was waking up. Back on the Starseer, Vorak watched the progress from the bridge. He knew they were close to something huge. The galaxy would never be the same once these ships took to the skies again. But he also knew that their discovery wouldn't stay a secret for long. Other factions, other alien empires would come looking. They always did. Tira approached him. "Captain, we need to consider the possibility of an attack. If anyone finds out what we've discovered, they'll come for us." Vorak turned to face her. "That's why we need to be ready. Once Crag gets that ship running, we'll have a weapon like no other. We'll defend ourselves and the fleet, no matter what." The breakthrough came on the 7th day. Crag and his team had finally restored power to the ship. Lights flickered on, the engines roared to life, and the control panels glowed with energy. The ancient warship was alive again. "Captain, we've done it," Crag shouted through the comms. "The ship is fully operational. She's ready to fly." Vorak allowed himself a rare smile. "Excellent work, Crag. Prepare for a test flight. I want to see what this ship can really do." The crew gathered around as the massive warship lifted off the ground for the first time in centuries. Dust and debris scattered in all directions as the ship slowly rose into the air, its engines humming with power. It was a sight to behold, an ancient relic of human ingenuity, now fully restored and ready for battle. But the test flight was only the beginning. Vorak knew that they had a long way to go. The rest of the fleet still needed to be repaired, and they had to keep their discovery hidden from the prying eyes of the galaxy. As the warship soared through the planet's atmosphere, Tira stood next to Vorak, watching the ship with a mixture of awe and concern. "Captain, this is just one ship. Imagine what we could do with the entire fleet." Vorak nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "We need to be careful. If the wrong people find out about this, it could spark a war." Tira looked at him, her eyes serious. "Or it could end one." Vorak didn't reply. He knew she was right. These ships, once fully operational, could change everything. But they would also make enemies, powerful enemies. And if they weren't careful, their discovery could lead to more destruction than they could imagine. For now, though, they had the advantage. The fleet was theirs, and the galaxy didn't know it yet. But that wouldn't last for long. As the ancient warship soared through the skies, Captain Vorak knew they had achieved something incredible. His crew had revived a piece of history, a ship that had been lost for centuries, forgotten by the galaxy. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. Out of the corner of his eye, Tira saw something on the long-range sensors. Her voice broke the silence on the bridge. "Captain, we've got incoming ships. A lot of them." Vorak's heart sank. He had expected someone to come looking eventually, but not this soon. "Can you identify them?" he asked, his voice calm but tense. Tira's hands moved swiftly over the control panel. "It's the Rendarian Empire. Looks like a fleet of battlecruisers. They're heading straight for us." Vorak clenched his fists. The Rendarians were a ruthless alien race known for conquering entire star systems. If they had learned about the ancient human warships, it was bad news. Very bad news. "How long until they reach us?" Vorak asked, turning to face his crew. 10 minutes, maybe less," Tira replied, her face grim. Vorak took a deep breath. They didn't have much time, but they had one advantage, the ancient warship they had just repaired. It was more powerful than any of the ships in their fleet. But it wasn't fully tested yet, and the rest of the fleet was still offline. "We have no choice," Vorak said, standing tall. "We'll take the warship into battle. It's the only way to protect the fleet." Within minutes, Vorak and a small team of his best officers boarded the ancient warship. The massive vessel's engines roared to life as they prepared for battle. Crag, the engineer who had worked tirelessly to bring the ship online, was at the controls. "This ship was built for war," Crag said with a grin. "Let's show those Rendarians what humans are capable of." As the warship rose into space, Vorak's mind raced. The odds were against them, one ship against an entire fleet of battlecruisers. But this wasn't just any ship. This was a relic from the past, a weapon from an age when humans were feared across the galaxy. The Rendarian fleet came into view, their massive battlecruisers moving in formation. They were ready for a fight, confident in their numbers and firepower. But they didn't know what was waiting for them. Vorak sat in the command chair, his eyes locked on the enemy ships. "Crag, power up the weapons! Let's see what this warship can do." Crag's fingers flew across the controls, activating the ship's ancient weapon systems. "Weapons online, Captain. We've got plasma cannons, missile launchers, and something I've never seen before, a particle beam. This thing is a beast." Vorak's heart raced with excitement. "Good. Target the lead battlecruiser. Let's make an example of them." The Rendarian ships began firing, their plasma bolts lighting up the darkness of space. The warship's shields absorbed the first few hits, but Vorak knew they couldn't take too much damage. They had to strike first, and strike hard. "Fire the plasma cannons!" Vorak ordered. The ancient warship's cannons roared to life, sending bright blue plasma bolts toward the lead Rendarian ship. The battlecruiser's shields flickered for a moment before they collapsed under the power of the attack. The plasma tore through the ship's hull, causing a massive explosion. The crew of the Starseer, watching from a distance, erupted in cheers as the Rendarian battlecruiser disintegrated. But Vorak knew the battle was far from over. The rest of the enemy fleet was still intact, and they weren't going to back down easily. Tira's voice came over the comms. Captain, the Rendarians are regrouping. They're sending more ships your way. Vorak didn't hesitate. Crag, prepare the missile launchers. Let's hit them hard before they can organize an attack. Crag nodded, loading the warship's ancient missile systems. Missiles locked on, Captain. Firing now. A barrage of missiles shot out from the warship, streaking toward the Rendarian fleet. The enemy ships tried to dodge, but the missiles were too fast. Several more battlecruisers exploded in a brilliant display of fire and debris, but the Rendarians weren't finished yet. The remaining ships launched a counterattack, firing plasma bolts and missiles of their own. The warship shook as it was hit by enemy fire, its shields weakening. "Shields are down to 40%, Captain," Crag warned, his voice tense. Vorak gritted his teeth. "We need to finish this now. Activate the particle beam." Crag's eyes widened. "Are you sure? I've never used it before. It could be unstable." "We don't have a choice," Vorak replied. "Do it." Crag took a deep breath and activated the particle beam. The entire ship seemed to hum with energy as the weapon powered up. A brilliant beam of light shot out from the warship, cutting through space like a knife. It struck the center of the Rendarian fleet, vaporizing 3 ships in an instant. The rest of the Rendarian ships faltered, their formations breaking apart. The sheer power of the particle beam had taken them by surprise, and they didn't know how to respond. "They're retreating!" Tira's voice came through the comms, filled with relief. "They're pulling back!" Vorak allowed himself a small smile. They had won the battle, but only just. The ancient warship had proven its worth, but they had taken a beating in the process. As the Rendarian fleet fled, Vorak ordered Crag to power down the weapons. The warship drifted through the wreckage of the destroyed enemy ships, its engines humming softly. "We did it," Tira said, her voice filled with disbelief. "We actually did it." Vorak nodded, but his mind was already thinking ahead. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. The Rendarians would return, and next time, they wouldn't be so easy to defeat. And there were still more ancient warships to repair. "We need to get the rest of the fleet operational," Vorak said, standing from his chair. This was just the beginning. Crag grinned. "You got it, Captain. By the time we're done, the galaxy won't know what hit it." As the warship returned to the planet, Vorak looked out at the stars. The ancient fleet was their only hope for survival, but it was also a ticking time bomb. Once the rest of the galaxy learned what they had, they would be hunted by every major power. But for now, they had the upper hand, and that was enough. The battle was over, and the ancient warship returned to the base, battered but victorious. Captain Vorak stood on the bridge, watching the stars shimmer outside the viewport. The crew was still buzzing from the adrenaline of battle, but there was a sense of pride among them. Against all odds, they had faced the Rendarian fleet and won. The ancient ship, once mocked as a relic of a bygone era, had proven itself more powerful than anyone could have imagined. As the ship docked, a delegation from the Galactic Council was waiting to greet them. They were a mix of different alien species, all powerful members of the Council who had once looked down on humans. Their leader, High Chancellor Varen, stood at the front, his long robes flowing as he stepped forward to meet Vorak. Vorak and his crew exited the ship, standing tall as they approached the Council members. The tension in the air was thick. These were the same beings who had laughed at human technology, who had called their arms primitive. Now, they were here to witness the aftermath of humanity's triumph. High Chancellor Varen eyed the ancient warship, his expression hard to read. "So it's true," he said, his voice cold. "You used an ancient human warship to defeat the Rendarian fleet." Vorak nodded. "We did. It was our only option." Varen's eyes narrowed. "And what does this mean? Are humans planning to rise up and become a new galactic power? To challenge the balance we've maintained for centuries?" Vorak met his gaze without flinching. "We're not looking for power. We only want what every race deserves, respect. The Rendarians attacked us and we defended ourselves. If the Council won't stand with us, we'll stand alone." There was a murmur among the Council members. For too long, humans had been seen as the underdogs of the galaxy, a race that didn't have the advanced technology or military strength of other species. But that perception was changing now, and Vorak knew it. As the council members whispered among themselves, one of them, a tall insect like being named Yakor, stepped forward. Yakor had always been one of humanity's harshest critics. His large compound eyes gleamed with something that looked like curiosity. "Captain Vorak, tell me, what is the true power of this ancient ship? We've heard rumors, but none of us believed such a primitive vessel could stand against modern fleets." Vorak glanced at the ship behind him, its hull still glowing faintly from the recent battle. "This ship may be old, but it was built during a time when humans were at war with enemies far more dangerous than anything you've seen. Its technology was ahead of its time, and we've only begun to unlock its full potential." Yakor tilted his head. "So, humans of the past were more advanced than we thought?" Vorak nodded. "That's right. We may have forgotten some of that knowledge over the centuries, but it's still in our blood. We are survivors and we are fighters. That's something no one should ever underestimate." The silence that followed was thick with realization. The council members had always seen humans as a weak, backward race, but now they were faced with the undeniable proof that humanity had a dangerous potential, one that could no longer be ignored. After a moment, High Chancellor Varen spoke again, his tone softer now. "Captain Vorak, I believe we may have misjudged your people. The Galactic Council has always valued strength and ingenuity. It seems humanity possesses both." Vorak didn't let his guard down. He knew respect was not something given easily. It had to be earned, and sometimes it had to be fought for. "We've always had those qualities, Chancellor. You just never saw them." Varen raised an eyebrow. "Perhaps not. But the Rendarian Empire is a powerful foe. The fact that you defeated them in battle will not go unnoticed. The Council will need to discuss what happens next." Tira, who had been standing quietly beside Vorak, spoke up for the first time. "What do you mean? What happens next?" "The Rendarians attacked us. We defended ourselves. Are you saying we're the problem?" Varen's gaze shifted to her, his expression unreadable. "No, Lieutenant, but the balance of power in the galaxy is delicate. If the Council decides that humanity is becoming too dangerous—" "Dangerous?" Crag interrupted, his frustration evident. "We didn't ask for this fight. The Rendarians attacked us because they thought they could crush us easily. We defended ourselves and now we're dangerous? Give me a break." Yakor raised one of his long limbs in a calming gesture. "Peace, Engineer Crag. No one is saying humanity is at fault, but the galaxy is watching. And when power shifts, it creates ripples. We must ensure those ripples don't turn into waves." Vorak sighed. This was exactly what he had feared. Even in victory, humanity's place in the galaxy was still uncertain. They had proven their strength, but now that strength was seen as a threat. It seemed no matter what they did, they couldn't escape the scrutiny of the Council. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the Council members, an elderly alien with pale blue skin and large eyes, stepped forward. His name was Adon, and he was known for being a voice of reason among the Council. He looked at Vorak with a deep sense of understanding. "Captain Vorak," Adon said, "I have lived through many wars, and I have seen many races rise and fall. Respect is not something that is given freely. It must be earned. And today your people have earned mine." Vorak blinked in surprise. He hadn't expected any of the Council members to side with him so openly. "Thank you, Counselor Adon. But respect won't be enough to protect us from the Rendarians if they return." Adon smiled faintly. "No, it won't. But you've proven that humans are not to be taken lightly. And for that, the Council will have to reconsider its stance. Perhaps it is time we recognized humanity as a true force in the galaxy." Vorak felt a weight lift from his shoulders. It wasn't a victory, but it was a step in the right direction. For the first time in centuries, humans were being seen as equals, not as a primitive species struggling to keep up with the rest of the galaxy. High Chancellor Varen nodded in agreement. "Counselor Adon is right. Humanity has earned its place, but the road ahead will be difficult. The Rendarians will not rest until they've avenged their defeat." Vorak stood tall, his resolve unwavering. "Let them come. We'll be ready." In that moment, humanity had taken its first real step toward winning the respect of the galaxy. The ancient warship had given them the power to fight back, but it was their courage and determination that had truly won the day.